at least portrayed in a better manner. Um, Kind of tied to that would also be this. There's got to be an awareness within CII member companies that we even exist, and I can give you a kind of case study after case study where people don't know what it is. The people that have been around for a while think that it's still just training and not the support or implementation support efforts as well, or services as well. So I think that's kind of tied to kind of branding or whatever you want to call it of this whole registered provider program. Um, the second or third item would be, we talked about a new member package. And we probably need Jenny in support of this, but is I talked to Mulva a bit about our thoughts, and he was 100% on board that for a new member that we don't offer a reduced rate, but we do offer that $10,000 of your $40,000 first year goes to, you can pick whatever registered provider you want to work with, and you get $10,000 worth of implementation services as part of your membership fee. And then obviously that money comes to us, to support these people in implementing CII best practices, tools, whatever. And he thought that was a great idea. So we got to work the details of that. And what did I miss? I got
the intro package.
Yeah, that's the one I was just talking about. Is how Jenny's got to come up with. Internet. Since you were doing a lot of this for years, is what should that include, and maybe just giving Jenny some guidance on what that is, and then that all comes back to the registered providers, and we're part of that initiative for any new member.
Steve,
I tell you, even the existing members would benefit from that same package, because I think there's a lot of confusion as far as who they go to for whatever.
Well, Steve, this is Tad. Related to that is also, we talked about at the annual conferences, what is CII's role regarding implementation? And Mike Davidson, of course, who's on the implementation committee chair, stated that he was in the process of rewriting that charter. And so CII is not going to be providing implementation services directly. And that's where the registered provider program kind of weaves into that too. So I think that's another dimension that we should look at holistically as we talk about this.
Yeah. So maybe just to kind of get started is for those of you that are online and in front of a computer, Tad just slapped together a real quick Excel spreadsheet of kind of thoughts around what kind of a front page, if you want, of the registered provider site would look like on the CII site, with this matrix type of concept. And now, Christine, I don't know if you can bring that up.
I did. I just pulled it up. I also want to let everyone know that I am recording the call for those that are not on the call.
Yeah. And that's if you look at it, then the left-hand side, obviously the services or practices, and the rest of the matrix is the across the top, obviously, are the registered provider companies, and then Tad, I think what you did is just pulled this right off of the site, right, that exists now.
Yeah, I just summarized it. Yeah.
Yeah, has expertise in what area. So it doesn't seem to me to be that difficult of a thing for CII to put into their site. And then obviously you can click on the top and you can go to that registered providers page or brochure or whatever you want to call it that exists now. but I think that at least helps people if we could direct them to that, to say, okay, if you need implementation help in any one of those areas, here's the people that can help you, and then they can choose whoever they want. Either if they're a new member or an existing member, it wouldn't really matter. So everybody kind of agree with that? I mean, obviously the look and feel would change, but.
Well, if you'd scroll down, I added one more thing, Christine. I think there's a second page here that we can see. There you go, which is also added the dimension of this industry sector focus. And I filled out the column for Pathfinder because I have access to the Pathfinder information, being the new guy. But yeah. I would envision that the other RPs could also, show what areas of industry expertise and or focus that they may have. So this just adds another dimension to the ability to search for a specific provider or group of providers to match the query perhaps that you're trying to achieve. So this was again just a straw man, and I took this information right off the website as it is today. So it's just a concept.
Any comments or questions from others about it?
Yeah, I mean, the concept looks good. I guess maybe have to see what everybody puts back, because if everybody puts everything, it probably doesn't end up helping anyone.
Hello.
Yeah, and that's yeah. Somebody just join us.
No, this is Jerry. I was just asking if Tad could provide that through an email.
Yeah, I could ask Christine to send it out to everybody.
We can email it. We can email it to everybody.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm looking at a mobile phone, so it's not.
Yeah, and I think people need to be honest, right? I mean, other than that, CII is going to have to, and I don't think they're going to do this, but one of the things that CII could take on is, you got to prove that you have expertise in those areas, but I just don't see they have the bandwidth to do that. So we've got to be honest, and I know that Pathfinder, we're not going to be the safety experts. So that's an area that we're just basically not, going to put as something that we feel that we could help in implementation of. And some other areas, but I think just people need to be honest in what industries they support and what skill sets that they have, and see how the matrix looks. But I do agree that it adds no value if we all just put everything. So what I'd like to do is I'll take this one on in working with whoever. I'm not even sure if it's Cindy or Chris or Jenny or whoever, but I'll figure it out and get them to at least get up to speed on what we're thinking as far as this portion of it, and they can come up with some graphics or whatever it takes to spruce it up or to make it look like the rest of the CII site. But I just think that overall page, before you get to each of the individual resource or the registered providers, will help a lot.
Steve,
Okay
this
with that?
is Jerry again. Steve?
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yes.
So we were talking about ideas, and I think this is a very helpful part of it. When members we want to encourage them to get support, to get help when they're thinking about or not thinking about they're implementing CII research and such best practices, and I'm not talking about financial incentives. I'm not sure that that's important to our clients. Maybe some, but I'm thinking more along the line of there's certain behavioral things that keep them from, getting help. They'd rather self-implement to try it on their own, or think that they can do it. And I think the idea of giving 5 days of consulting to new members, that's a good idea, because it'll help onboard them to that idea, to that concept. And is there anything that we can do to existing members that would help them overcome whatever, as I say, behavioral or cultural things that keep them from getting help?
Well, we used to do a membership engagement survey, the Membership Engagement Committee, and we did that every 2 years, and we did it as an opportunity to find out from existing long-term members even, what is their health, and are you, it's almost like running the implementation toolkit against an existing member. So do you have a CII steering committee? No. Okay, well, you should probably have a CII steering committee, and here's what one looks like, and here's a recommended best practice, and that information was in our Board of Advisor guidebook, or let's call it a guidebook for lack of a better description. That guidebook apparently has been lost in the fire of all the website transitions, and the implementation committee at one time had suggested that they would take that on, and that's why I kind of rejoined the implementation committee to help do that. So again, we had people from the next generation group at the annual conference say, I don't even know how to get on a research team. I've searched the website and there's no instruction on how to do it. So little things like that I think would be helpful, and it's kind of the how-to manual, if you will, that could help people, and you just simply ask people those questions. Some people may not, as we found in the survey, even though they don't have certain functions, are still happy, they're still okay, they're still engaged. We measured it by participation. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but to talk to every individual, all 140 plus members one at a time, that would be a tough task too.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, I think, what you're talking about is an element of if we think about this like it's a program that, needs to be a campaign attitude taken with it. So I'm remembering we had one of those implementation workshops in Albuquerque where the engagement survey was presented, and it showed that implementation was kind of low. I think 80% of the membership said that they didn't pursue implementation. So I think when we've got the membership together, or when we get a chance to communicate with them, to let them know what it's all about, and as I say, take a campaign kind of approach to it, and reinforce that with questionnaires and kind of ideas that you've got there, Tad. I think that's the that will help.
Yeah, so that, I guess that's addressing the kind of the second item is, we've got to first figure out who at CII oversees this registered provider program. It used to be Cindy because it was the registered education provider program, and it fell under professional development. Now that it's a registered provider program, it's more than that, and it seems to not have a leader or somebody from a stamp on a CII that we can push some of this forward. So I guess, I'll take that one on as well, as to find out within CII what's the plan, right? Who's going to lead this effort, so we know who to deal with. And it may be that somebody's going to oversee the registered provider program, but I still see Jenny as leading this introductory package that a new member gets. Right?
Well, we talked about, this new member onboarding. There's many dimensions to it because there's more than one or two roles, right? And we talked at the annual conference that if the board of advisor is the CII champion within the member company, and that's a unique role. It's different than being on a sector committee. It's different than being on a standing committee. It's different than being even in a leadership role. So if that board of advisor is the one that we're trying to make that champion and help that person be successful, what we learned is the board of advisor roles are rotating faster than the earth goes around the sun. And that creates part of the problem that Jerry brought up is that things get lost in the shuffle and people aren't passing on that responsibility within their company, and then they miss an opportunity. So if a new member came on board and they got a 10% discount, I'm making this number up, and that 10% discount funded a pool of money to the RP community to help with a launch kit or an onboarding system of some sort. It could be a smorgasbord of things that someone could choose from. To Jerry's point, what do you do about the existing member, who's been there for 20 years, and if they wanted to do that, a refresh, an update, come in and help us kind of re-energize CII, then would they have to pay for that? And if it's a service we offer, the RP community can offer. Any of us could do it, let's say, but the new member gets to pick it as part of his discount. The existing member does not. Would that concept be a barrier? Because people say, I want to do it, but I got no money for that. I can't afford it or whatever. It's not in my budget. So that's something we'll have to figure out.
Well, I think part of that again is, I just don't think that the CII community doesn't. I think a lot of them don't even know that this registered provider program exists. So there's got to be some
sales and marketing.
Yeah, within CII that I don't know if that's the at the board of advisor meetings or there's a blurb that goes out and says, hey, we've just resurrected the registered education provider program, but it's now called the registered provider, and it's more than just training. It includes blah 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 blah, whatever all that happens to be.
It could be a webinar, a board of advisor webinar. We used to do those a lot, 4 or 5 times a year.
I think if we just made it, an agenda item that happens on every board of advisor event, even if it's 5 minutes, and they hear it, 4 or 5 times a year, then it's a part of a very purposeful marketing campaign that's run for the program.
Right.
Yeah, there's actually research that's been done to understand implementation, which I found interesting.
Say that again, Jerry? Sorry.
There's been a couple of research teams that have worked on the issue of implementation. Now, largely, they're from the perspective of how does a company implement its CII benefits, the research inside its own company, as opposed to using outside or registered provider support. But I think to the point of having it available at DOA meetings or annual conferences or whatever, maybe there's a small bit of work that's done to look at that and maybe refresh it, update it so that it's now reflecting the new program.
Yeah, the other thing that I started on and I just didn't have time to finish it before today's call, but I can send it to you is I took a screenshot, if you will, of the whole registered provider website and all the things it says. And I think as part of the redesign of the RP website, we could also collectively expand, perhaps put in a little bit better definition and understanding of what this program is and how it works and what the companies offer. To Steve's previous point, it's not just training, which is what maybe there's a perception that's out there. So again, with Sandra's idea, and Jerry, you guys, that's right on target as far as I'm concerned, the idea of reiterating that and then just building that new information campaign, if you will, to get it right, so that when they do click on it and look at it, they're seeing what the intent is of our whole program. I think that would be go a long way in adding understanding and credibility.
Yeah, and I guess the question is do we feed that to CII and then they figure out how to put it into this website? Or
that's what I do. I'd say here's our proposal, and it's the Scud missile approach we used to call it. You throw it up there and somebody will shoot at it. And that's what we're trying to do, is get people to just
see who yells duck.
Exactly. It works very well. And so if we put together this the write-up, and it won't be in web format, obviously, but say, here's what we envisioned, here's what we wanted to say, here's what the matrix looks like, here's how we want to update the promotional value of the website, and here's our recommendation for that and for the member discount and how that gets applied and all these things we've been talking about. And then sit down with Cindy and Chris and Steve. I guess you'll have to ask Stephen. The earlier question is who at CII is going to own this, and then
right.
and then we'll just have we can have a meeting and just make this the actual the topic and see if we can sell it. And if they shoot at it, great. Then we'll get feedback.
Steve, when you set the agenda up for this call, there were 4 things that you wanted to accomplish, and I felt like the spreadsheet that you showed earlier accomplished one thing. This program framework for the RP is another answer, and I'm happy to work with Tad on this if that's okay.
Yeah.
What are the other 2 things? You feel like are you getting what you want from this call?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I want to make sure that we're aligned as a group. I don't want to be this is Pathfinder's idea or so on. It's got to be all of us that say, yeah, this will help, and we pay a fee for this registered provider, whatever you want to call it, stamp of approval, and we need to make sure that we're going after this in an aligned fashion. When it was just training, it was okay. List your training courses that you provide in this big matrix and so on. It's more than that now, and we need to make sure that whatever we're coming up with makes sense for all of us. So that was a big part of this, is to not have it be 1 or 2 registered providers pushing this. This is a collective group, because one of the things is I just don't see any bandwidth within CII where this will be a focus, right? So it's got to come from us and saying, okay, what's going to benefit the CII members and what benefits us as a provider. And then we're going to have to do a lot of the work, just because CII just they don't have the horsepower to do it. Plus, I don't know, they just don't seem that this is an important aspect of, and I think it is from an implementation standpoint. It can be a very important aspect to try to get people more engaged with CII, but I don't think internal to CII they see it that way.
Well,
and to your point, if the membership perceives this as it's a wrestling match, we've got 20 consultants who are scratching out for work, then we're done. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be kind of a collegial approach with the intention of the best for the CII membership, and that's how it has to be seen, and that's how it has to be. Yeah.
I think another important piece of the puzzle that we have to understand before this can go too much further is two things. One is the implementation committee and what is their future charter, and how will that, and perhaps the professional development committee as well, how does that affect what we're doing? And I think we know the answer from what Mike has told us at the annual conference, but we need to see that. We need to understand where that's going to go. And then the other opportunity that was out there that we talked about was, as this sector research gets completed, and there may be implementation associated with the output of that sector research. So the construction readiness assessment tool, let's use that as a recent example, right? So if the Funded Studies Committee and CII don't want the principal investigators to do the implementation side of the house, that opens up an opportunity for some of the RPs anyway to take that on as an assignment. It's kind of independent perhaps of the program, but it's out there that would be something that would allow us to again further integrate ourselves into CII as experts on certain things. So I think we need to, particularly the implementation committee, what is CII's role in the future around implementation, and then how can the RPs help as a result of that perhaps change in direction? So I think we look for Mike Davidson to give us maybe an update on, well, actually they're meeting on Thursday. I'm going to attend that meeting this Thursday in 2 days, so I'll find out, from Mike where that's going as well. I'll ask him.
Sounds good, Ted.
Yeah, so I mean, just from an action item list, I think that the first thing is that, well, Christine will take notes and get this all out to everybody. But I'll address the website issue, at least getting some kind of a homepage and a better way for people to see what the registered provider program is all about, and get to our respective information pages rather than just scrolling down. Sandra, you probably get hit the worst with that, because I think it's in alphabetical order.
Yeah, I had this discussion with my kids about if I renamed my company, it wouldn't start with B.
Yeah, right. But so I think that's one of the first things, and I can take on that later this week. And then, Tad, I think if you can give us some information back on the implementation committee, I will also try to reinforce this idea of the introductory support from one of whoever a client picks. So if we get a new member, they get a certain amount of support from one of the registered providers, and that'll probably have to be implemented in 2019, just because of the 25% discount I guess they get now. We would change that. We would change that to be that you don't get any discount, but you do get support, roughly $10,000 worth of support from a RP.
I wouldn't fix a number to it. I would say 5 days. This way, whether it's Accenture, McKinsey, PTAG, it doesn't matter what their rates are, anything like that. 5 days flat, that's it.
Yep. No, well, yeah, and that the details of that will obviously make sure we all agree on before we actually. I just want to get the concept, and if Stephen obviously is the director, but he's got to get others to agree to it, and then make sure that is communicated when Jenny's going out and getting new members to join.
Well, I think the
And I think-
RPs have to be saying the same. We have to, if we're going to do launch kits or new member orientations or something, whatever we're going to call this part of the offering, that we should all be singing from the same song sheet. And whether
Use
that's
the same book, right?
it's the same book,
Yep.
the same PowerPoint deck, the same information, whatever it may be, so that we're not, we're giving a unified message no matter who you talk to.
Agreed. And I think if we can tackle those couple of things first, then we can go to the next tier and figure out how to make it even more valuable. But we just got to make sure CII is on board with all of this, and that it doesn't take a year to change a website. That's not going to help any of us.
I think, Steve, you said you were also going to follow up about who manages the RP for CII.
Yep.
Who's going to be the owner?
Yeah, because it doesn't seem to me that it has anyone right now.
Okay.
Well, Chris and Cindy have said they're sharing it. It may be more that
And
there's
like I said, Cindy
just
was
not a.
the REP, but I'm not sure. Yeah, like I said, and at least either one of them grabbing onto it and saying, okay, let's make it official for everybody. So I think we need a single point of contact, and then we'll make sure we latch on to it as a group.
Okay.
Does that all make sense? Christine will send out meeting minutes for the group here,
And a copy of
and the copy of Tad's Excel spreadsheet, and then we'll get some feedback from Tad, and then, like I said, I have a standing meeting with Steve Mulva every 2 weeks. The chair and the vice chair meet with Mulva every 2 weeks just for updates, and I'll make sure it gets on that agenda for, I think it's either next week or the week after.
Thanks for doing this.
All right.
Appreciate you putting the call on.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you, Christine, for
Thanks a lot,
organizing
Steve.
this.
All right,
No
thanks,
problem.
everyone.
Take care. Have a good day.
See y'all.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.